Welcome to today's video. So on this channel, mostly have been talking about fitness and health and so on. But as I mentioned early on in the creation of this channel, that it wasn't going to be just about fitness, but about sort of anything to do with uh, developing a better life, being more resilient, being stronger in all the different things that make up our lives. So this video is about why it's okay to have a job. And so the context of this is that in the current generation, especially, and as someone who's grown up with the internet and with social media and so on, there is a big tendency out there to push this idea that everyone has to be entrepreneurs, everyone has to be business owners, everyone has to do their own thing, and that sort of working for someone else is, somehow a lesser option. Now, as someone who has been self-employed for most of my adult life, being self-employed, so recently, about a year ago, I started working again, and there was a few different reasons for that. But the real reason, the biggest reason, I should say, was that I wanted to be able to do things that I actually couldn't do as an employee, as a self-employed person. And so there's pros and cons to being self-employed. And so, I was self-employed for 10 years. I didn't have a job outside of making money for myself. I was running my own business, which I still run and have. And so I did that from a pretty early age. I was sort of 22, 23 when I started getting into that and started developing that. And by 24, that was my full-time income. And 23 actually was my full-time income, was from being self-employed. And so I did that for 10 years straight without having any other form of employment. And so whilst there are benefits of that, there are benefits that come along with being self-employed. The problem that I see now with a lot of this idea that everyone should sort of be doing their own thing, everyone should be an entrepreneur, is that it takes away from the fact that a lot of people are simply better off having jobs. There's a lot of benefits to jobs, and working for other people often allows you to do things, depending on the situation, that is significantly better, or gives you more options, or gives you more ability than you'd ever be able to do with a small business that you may have. Because at the end of the day, not every entrepreneur, and realistically only very few entrepreneurs, are ever going to become enormous, creators of companies that are just huge and can do amazing things with that ability. The majority of people who are self-employed are almost like contractors, or kind of people who are working for themselves and on their own, but almost basically like a job in a lot of ways anyway. It's just that they're not working for a particular company, they're going and getting their own work and so on. So say you're a painter, and instead of working for someone else who has a painting company, you're getting your own jobs, doing your own marketing and so on, and you get to then choose which jobs to go, and maybe you then keep more of that profit margin than you would if you were working as a painter. But at the same time, you also have to spend more. You have to have your own equipment, you have to have your own car, truck, whatever it might be. You have to get your own supplies, you have to pay for all that stuff, you have to get marketing, sales, having accountants, doing all that other stuff that someone who just has the job doesn't have to deal with. And so what it comes down to is playing to the strengths that you have. And so it might be that being an entrepreneur or being a business owner is the right thing for you, but it's not the right thing for everyone. And it's not the thing that's going to help everyone excel and help everyone, be the best person they can be, depending on what they do. And I've seen this sort of attitude over the years, being involved in the business, entrepreneur, whatever you want to call it, world for so long, for most of my early adult life. I've seen this time and time again, and a lot of these people talk down upon people who have jobs. They talk about it as if it's like some shameful thing to have to work a 9 to 5 job, and that if you're working for someone else, that there's something sort of wrong with you for not wanting to go out on your own. But the reality is, most people who are on their own, who are working on their own, are not doing all that well. There's a ton of people out there who try and start businesses, and within a year or two, those businesses fail. And so when we look at, you know, having a job versus being self-employed, being the entrepreneur, we need to weigh up those pros and cons, because the benefits of being self-employed come with a whole lot of downsides. And depending on your personality, depending on your skill set, depending on your background, your current situation, it's quite likely that you're going to have a much worse outcome if you try and do something that's not really for you. And you would be better off trying to maximize your skills and then maximize the type of jobs that you can get. Because at the end of the day, there's always going to be a certain percentage of people who are business owners, entrepreneurs, whatever you want to call it. And there's going to be a whole lot of people who are working for those people. And neither of those people are better or worse than the other. They're doing different things. They have different skill sets and different abilities. And the ones who can maximize that in either of those cases are the ones who are going to get the most out of their life, because they're not locking themselves into this idea that they have to do something, that they're told is a good thing. And so I saw a bit of research recently that was talking about how many people in the younger generations, sort of in their 30s and below, who have this real desire or this idea that they have to start some sort of new thing and they have to be an entrepreneur. But then looking at how many people were actually doing it, and that the numbers of people starting a new business were lower than they were decades ago. And I think it comes down a lot to this problem where people kind of look at being a business owner or entrepreneur, and we take these examples, like we look at Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos, and these like ultra wealthy, ultra successful in the sense of business, these people who have made billions of dollars from what they do. And it's not to say that maybe you are that one in a billion who can do that, but the reality is very few people are going to achieve things of that level in the business world. And so what happens is these people who might actually be good at business, they look at this and they sort of think that, well, because I'm not doing that well, I don't have some amazing, crazy idea, I won't start a business, or I won't do that thing that might be $1 million business, but it's not a $1 billion business. And so ironically, we actually have a situation where because the goal is so high, we have less people starting and less people trying it. And a lot of it, basically, what it boils down to is an unrealistic idea of what running a business is about, how difficult running a business actually is, and the different skill sets that you need when it comes to running a business versus having a job, and those pros and cons that each one has. And so with this, you basically need to just simply understand yourself. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Is having a business for you, or is having a job for you? And at different stages in your life, there could be, both of those things could be useful. And so for me, going from having a business for the last 10 years to then getting back into working gave me an ability to now be involved with the Rural Fire Service, but that means I can do things that there was no way as a business owner I can be involved in a lot of the things that I get to do in this job. And that's true for a lot of people. And it might be that the really specific thing that you want to excel at, you need a big company or even a government to allow you to have the money and the specific situations that are going to be presented to you to develop certain skills that you simply can't have in a small business. And so the take home message is that there's nothing wrong with having a job, there's nothing wrong with having a business. They're different things and they're for different people at different times. And this message that keeps getting pushed out there, and I see it all the time, and I've seen it now the whole time that I've been in business, really, this idea that not having a business and not being an entrepreneur is somehow a failure in life. And that, all these people who are working jobs are somehow lesser people because they're not entrepreneurs. And this couldn't be further from the truth, because a lot of the most skilled and talented people that I know all work jobs and have always worked jobs and never had a business. There's some people who've had businesses that are also skilled and have abilities, but it's not a prerequisite. You can excel in both of these things, and it's really about you as an individual. So I hope that's been interesting. Hope that's been informative. If you have any questions or you have any of your own experiences in this sort of area, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic. So comment them below or send me a message.